we do have to restructure. Central office does have to restructure. We have to be able to do more with less.
Staring down a $50 million budget deficit, Portland Public School leaders speaking out about proposed cuts.
I know the American people support that mission despite your loose talk.
And fiery words from Pete Hegseth as Congress grills him on a proposed $1.5 trillion defense budget. Plus, with no end in sight for the war with Iran, U.S. gas prices soared to a 4-year high. Developing this afternoon, Oregon's biggest school district is facing more than $50 million in budget cuts. Thank you for joining us. I'm Tim Gordon. This morning, Portland Public School leaders spoke about the proposed cuts. Thomas Schultz joins us outside PPS headquarters. And Thomas, what did those district leaders say about all this?
Yeah, well, Tim, Superintendent Dr. Kimberly Armstrong announced her proposed budget, which includes $56 million in budget cuts. School leaders say that these cuts are really hard, but they are necessary. Now, as part of these budget cuts, more than 320 positions would be slashed across the district. In the central office alone, there will be a nearly 15% reduction in staff and services. Schools will see a 4% reduction in budgets. This comes as Superintendent Armstrong says Portland Public is facing rising costs, limited revenue, and falling enrollment. Since 2019, PPS has seen a 12% drop in enrollment.
There's no more fat to cut. I mean, we are literally beyond the meat, we're into the bone. And every cut that we're doing is going to hurt, whether now or in the long run.
No, we're here because this is an emergency situation. The sky isn't just falling, right? It has fell.
And this will likely not be the end of cuts. Armstrong says Portland Public will likely slash another $65 million in its 2027-28 school year budget, meaning in a 3-year period, Oregon's largest district will have cut around $170 million. That is by far the most it's ever slashed in 3 years. Now, Tim, important to note here, this is just a proposed budget. School board members have until May 26 to approve it before then enacting it in late June. We also reached out to the Portland Teachers Union to get their reaction about this idea and this proposal. We have not yet heard back. Tim.
All right, Thomas, thanks very much. Meanwhile, Battleground Public Schools plans to cut more than 130 positions there as leaders work to close a $20 million budget deficit. The reductions come after voters rejected the district's replacement levy for a third time. About 70 positions are building-based staff, with high school teachers making up the largest share. That is followed by middle and primary school teachers, counselors, multilingual teachers, and administrators will also be impacted. District leaders warn the cuts could mean larger class sizes, fewer electives, and reduced athletics and extracurricular programs for Battleground students. Meantime, a car collided with a Portland streetcar this morning. This is near Northeast Weidler and Victoria Avenue. We don't know if anyone was seriously hurt, but Portland Fire says some medical intervention was needed. TriMet says the streetcar is returning to the maintenance yard to check for any damage. To national news now, and the Supreme Court just limited how race can be used when drawing congressional maps, weakening decades-old voting rights protections for minorities. Supporters say the map for Louisiana was drawn to comply with the landmark law aimed at protecting minority voters who long faced discrimination. But in a 6-3 ruling, the court's conservative majority found the district in this case relied too heavily on race. It means Louisiana must redraw its map again just weeks before its primary election. Meanwhile, there are just 2 weeks to go before the Oregon primary election, and today the first ballots are being mailed out to voters, and voters will decide on several critical races this election, including the Republicans' race for governor and whether to approve transportation taxes. Election day is Tuesday, May 19th. All right, taking a live look from our Rose City Skycam, where it's proving to be just a gorgeous day outside. Let's get a check on the weather with meteorologist Chris McGinnis.
Looking. was looking hard.
What are you looking for?
No clouds.
Oh, no clouds. That's
Just
it.
verifying. Yeah.
White and
This
blue.
is the visible satellite imagery across the Northwest. Yesterday, we were socked in from the Cascades to the coast in western Oregon to Washington. Not the case today. Everything is cleared out quite nicely. We're looking really, really good as we head into our Wednesday afternoon. That said, there are some nice pop-up clouds here now across the eastern part of the state. So as we get out towards like Prairie City, Baker City, up into the Blues and the Wallowas, those the precursor for some showers that are likely to be popping there over the next few hours. In fact, radar does indicate that out towards the northern Blue Mountains and out towards Baker City. So be on the lookout for that. But otherwise, the rest of the state is high and dry and warmer today than we were yesterday at this time, by a good 3 to 8 degrees in some cases. Beaverton's already up to 61. Wilsonville sits at 62 and Salem at 58. As we look from our Wells Fargo sky camera, again, not a cloud in the sky as we look off to the east. The airport's up to 58. So again, significantly warmer at noon today than we were yesterday, and that'll translate to a much warmer forecast. We hit 61 yesterday. I've got us up at about 71 this afternoon with full sunshine and a sunset of 8:15. We warm it up a little bit more tomorrow, maybe our first 80-degree day in the forecast, and then hold on, maybe our first 90-degree day of the year in my 7-day forecast. That's coming up in just a few minutes.
Wow, look forward to that, Chris. Thanks. Now here's a look at some national headlines this afternoon. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth faced some tough questions from lawmakers this morning for the first time since the Trump administration went to war with Iran. The hearing focused on the administration's 2027 military budget proposal, which would boost defense spending to an historic $1.5 trillion. Hegseth says the money would cover more drones, missile defense systems, and warships.
Their nuclear facilities have been obliterated. Underground, they're buried, and we're watching them 24/7. So we know where any nuclear material
reclaiming
might be.
my time for
we're
just
watching
a quick
at it.
second here. We had to start this war, you just said, 60 days ago, because the nuclear weapon was an imminent threat. Now you're saying that it was completely obliterated?
They had not given up their nuclear ambitions, and they had a conventional shield of thousands of
So
missiles.
Operation
They're
Midnight
at the
Hammer
weakest
accomplished
moment.
nothing of substance.
The war with Iran has cost $25 billion so far. That's according to an official from the Pentagon. And new within the last hour, the Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates unchanged. The Fed announcing the decision this morning in what's being called the highest level of dissent since 1992. Rates will stay in the 3.5 to 3.75% range for now. This is the third consecutive move to hold rates steady. It's considered one of the last decisions from current Fed Chair Jerome Powell, whose term is set to end on May 15th. Kevin Warsh, appointed by President Trump, is on track to be confirmed as the new Fed chair after his nomination was advanced this morning from committee to the full Senate. U.S. gas prices jumped another 5 cents. They're now averaging $4.23 a gallon nationwide. That's according to AAA. That's the highest price in nearly 4 years. The increase means prices are up 21 cents in just the last week. Right now, a gallon of regular in Oregon costs $5.12. Meantime, in Washington, prices are all the way up to $5.54 a gallon. A years-long criminal case against pharmaceutical company Purdue Pharma is over, and the company will no longer exist. In a sentencing hearing on Tuesday, a federal judge ordered Purdue Pharma to pay the Justice Department $225 million. The opioid maker pleaded guilty in 2020 to 3 federal criminal charges related to the illegal marketing and distribution of OxyContin. As part of the settlement, Purdue Pharma will dissolve and transfer assets to a new entity called Knoa Pharma that will provide treatments and medicines to combat the opioid crisis. Well, former FBI Director James Comey is facing a new federal indictment relating to a post he made on Instagram. A grand jury says the post, showing seashells on the beach, spelled out a threat against President Trump, something Comey strongly denies. NBC's Alice Barr has the very latest.
Former FBI Director James Comey waking up under federal indictment once again, this time over this post last year that Comey called a cool shell formation on his beach walk. The numbers 86, often referring to get rid of, and 47 for President Trump. A grand jury in North Carolina found Comey threatened the president's life and transmitted that threat across state lines in his post. The acting attorney general arguing the defendant here is unusual usual, but not the case.
His alleged conduct is the same kind of conduct that we will never tolerate.
Comey refutes that, saying he's being targeted.
I'm still innocent, I'm still not afraid, and I still believe in the independent federal judiciary, so let's go.
Comey took the post down when he started facing backlash, writing, quote, "I didn't realize some folks associate those numbers with violence."
If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination.
Democrats slamming the Comey case that Senator Dick Durbin called a, quote, weaponized Justice Department lashing out on behalf of a vengeful president. Republicans largely backing the move.
FBI director, pretty big job, lots of power. Abuse means more for somebody at that level.
The indictment comes less than a month after President Trump fired former Attorney General Pam Bondi amid frustrations over failures to successfully prosecute his political enemies, including an unrelated federal indictment against Comey last year, accusing him of lying to Congress. A judge dismissed it, but the Justice Department is appealing. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Well, now to the Blazers, whose season was on the line last night in San Antonio. Rip City needing a big road win to force a Game 6 back here in Portland. Unfortunately, though, the Spurs were just too much for the up-and-coming Blazers. San Antonio got off to a really hot start, leading by a dozen at the end of the first quarter and by 20 at the half. In fact, at one point, they led by as much as 28 points. But credit to the Blazers, they didn't go down without a fight, cutting the Spurs' lead to single digits in the fourth quarter to 9 points. Danny Avia led the way with 22 points, but San Antonio, ultimately they pulled away 114-95. That was the final score. The Spurs now advance to take on the winner of the Denver and Minnesota series. And while the Blazers may be done for the season, WNBA basketball in Portland is just getting started. The Fire kick off their preseason tonight in Seattle with their first home game coming up at Moda on Sunday. Orlando Sanchez will have live coverage from Seattle tonight, starting on the news at 4 o'clock.